how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So here's my review for The Walking Dead Dead City Episode 1. It's going to be my Episode 1 breakdown video, so obviously this will contain spoilers for the episode, so hope you guys are all aware of that. A lot of stuff happened in this episode. There were a lot of references to stuff that happened in the past on The Walking Dead. There's actually one or two, I would say, Rick Grimes references, and yeah, a lot to talk about here. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, I'm just going to say, I honestly really love this episode. I think that in terms of a premiere episode, it was a very solid premiere that set up the story very well. You know, I think with where things were at the very end of season 1, things felt a little bit more like final, right? Like everything was kind of, I mean, there was a cliffhanger, I guess, but you needed to set up a lot more of the world here. And I think you needed to build up some of the communities here. And I thought they did a really excellent job with building up New Babylon and a lot of the groups in Manhattan. So going forward now, it's going to be really exciting to see how all the communities actually operate and just seeing the story actually play out. And oh, I'm so thankful it's 8 episodes. I still wish it was more, but imagine if there were only 5 more episodes left, right? Like we have 7 more episodes still. So there's going to be a lot of stuff here that we actually get to see. And there's been no reviews for the final 2 episodes. So I'm sure there's going to be some pretty big spoilers here. And yeah, they set up quite a bit of stuff here in this very first episode. The opening sequence, I will say, I mean, honestly, really cool. I talked about it a lot before, so I'm not going to get into it too much here. But seeing them using walkers as resources, I think is kind of cool because that's just, I mean, obviously that is going to be the overall, I mean, mission for both groups, right? One group is trying to protect what they have, and the other group is trying to take that away from them, right? So I think it's going to be really incredible to see how this battle is going to start to happen here. Like we see a little bit in the trailer, but obviously we don't know what's happening eventually, and just all the drama and everything happening here. Like I like what Jeffrey Morgan said about the whole thing here is that like Negan's always one step ahead, right? So you know that he's doing all this right now for the Croat and Dama, but there's going to be other things that happen here, and it's not going to be as simple as, I mean, New Babylon versus the Dama, right? Like, it's not going to be that. The opening credits, I saw no changes for the most part. I think everything was basically the same. I mean, really cool to see the helicopters and stuff. Obviously, a reference to the CRM and all of that. And, I mean, just honestly, very cool to see this world, I guess, built up like this. And this is going to be the world, you know, in terms of the endgame reunion where Rick and, like, Dwight or Morgan or Daryl, any of the characters show up again. Like, this is going to be the story that it's set in, right? Like it might not be in New York City, but this is going to be around when things are happening, right? So yeah, just very cool to see the opening sequence again. And I really do like the opening credits in general. The season really begins, or this episode really begins with Maggie and Hershel out there practicing throwing knives. Well, I guess they're hunting deer. And I miss this. I will say I do miss these types of scenes here because this is something that The Walking Dead used to do quite a bit because it was like a lesson, right? You were trying to teach like the next generation how to hunt. And it was one of those like survival skills that you had to learn. And it was more of a peaceful moment. And I just really like the fact that we saw Maggie teaching Hershel that, right? Because obviously there's the whole deer storyline with Carl going back to the farm and all of that, right? Like that's where we met Maggie and Hershel. And it was just a really nice scene to see, I guess, in that sense. Like it was just classic Walking Dead to start, you know, the season really like with that. And then we see them going back to the bricks here. And yeah, they're in Hershel's room and Maggie sees the New York City logo on this hat. And the whole Manhattan thing that happened exactly 1 year ago, I will say. They actually did a time jump of 1 year, which I'm all right with because, again, like I know people are going to complain about the time jump stuff. To me, it doesn't really make a difference at all because, like, whatever's happening with the ones who live, like, after the ending or after The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, they're just going to jump forward in time, right? And they're going to catch up with Dead City, so all the characters will be older. They're basically going to be the same age, right? It's just going to be a couple of years into the future. Like, it's going to be the same thing as Fear the Walking Dead. Like, they were years and years in the past, and all of a sudden, for the very last season, they just jumped forward in time because they wanted to catch up, you know, the timeline there for Morgan with where things are at with The Walking Dead, right? So it's going to be the same thing there. That's why none of that really matters to me overall. It's just a way to get Hershel, I guess, a lot older because you do want those characters to be older now, right? And it makes sense to me because whenever they do the reunion story or the endgame story, like the actors who play RJ and Judith, they're going to be a lot older, right? So it just makes sense that they're going to catch up with that timeline overall. But anyways, Manhattan and everything that happened a year ago is still on their mind. And Hershel says that, you know, he's tired, so he just kind of wants to be left alone. And then Maggie says, all right, yeah, I'll leave you alone or whatever. But then notices a flashlight. And, talks about, I guess, how they used to signal each other. And I was actually wondering if this was a reference to season 11, because I haven't watched the scene in a while, but there was a scene in season 11 when we first saw Hershel again with Maggie, when Maggie actually returned to the show, where I think Hershel was signaling Maggie and he was like up in a tree or something like that. They might have been talking, so it might not have been anything with a flashlight, but I thought that that was a possible reference to that. But we do see Negan here, and he's waking up, and yeah, he's been in this place here for a year, and yeah, it's honestly kind of insane, like, the amount of stuff that he's been through. Like, he's just been in places like this for a long time, and honestly, he sticks to what he says, and so, yeah, he's enjoying, like, the music and all of that. I thought that was really incredible, honestly. Like, I think that's the one thing I like about this show is the atmosphere and the music. It just makes it feel different, and almost like The Grove in a way. Like, if you watch The Grove episode, obviously with Carol, the music in that episode made it really feel classic. It's so hard to explain, but that's the overall feel I got from watching that episode. And I'm getting the same sort of vibe here with The Walking Dead Dead City. It's their choice of, again, using the violin here and playing that music, or the organ later on. Like, it's that type of music that I think just fits this show very, very well. And I mean, honestly, with all the shows, I think the music is always done really well, but the tone here I think really works. But the Croat goes to visit him, and he finally wants Negan to, I guess, join their side now and just be like, all right, you gotta help us. And so Negan is just like, no, I'm not doing that. He actually kind of mentions something that I thought was kind of cool. Like, he mentions how going after New Babylon is not going to go the way that they're thinking because of Maggie, right? Like, Maggie is going to tear out your throat with her teeth, this and that. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that is such a Rick Grimes reference, obviously, to season 4, episode 16, titled A, where we saw Rick actually do that to the Claimers, right? So that was kind of a cool Easter egg there for Rick Grimes, but the Croat at this point is forced to actually take him to the Dama because he just refuses to really do anything at this point, right? So they go and see the Dama, and they talk about New Babylon and what they're planning to do. They gotta, like, unite everyone here. They gotta bring everyone together, and I like the fact that they actually do mention, like, New York City could be a really amazing place. Like, a gym teacher can command an army, and so a lot of people might not know that Negan used to be a gym teacher before the apocalypse. And so that was kind of a nice Easter egg there, because obviously we see that happen in the comic. We never really saw any of that on the show, but that is actually, I guess, somewhat a comic Easter egg, but that is what he used to do before. He was a gym teacher. Yeah, I mean, even with all of this here, he keeps saying no. And so the Dama at this point here is forced to bring up the fact that Annie and Joshua are on their way to the island here. And so at this point, Negan is like, well, I guess I have to join, right? And so I don't know if I necessarily believe that they're on their way. I will just say that. Like, I think that it is possible they could just be on their way there, but it's just a little bit too convenient with everything. I think it's possible that they're lying about that, because like, the Dama does mention a lot of things, so she knows a lot about what happened there. I mean, I could totally see them, taking Annie and Joshua and bringing them to, I guess, Manhattan. I could totally see them doing that. The way that a lot of that happened there, I just don't know if I necessarily believe her. And I feel like it could be a reveal later on this season that none of that is actually happening, like, at all. So yeah, I don't really see that happening at all this season. And I feel like she was just saying that because she found out a bunch of information and is using that to actually get him on her side, right? But let's go to the other storyline here with Maggie, and yeah, she's out there and she sees a moth again for the second time, and that basically means, like, if you're seeing a moth all the time, like, from what I understand is that it means that something is ending, but there's, like, a new beginning. And so I think that she doesn't really seem to be happy with seeing the moth all the time. But she also does mention later on that New Babylon is running out of ethanol, right? And so that seems to be a big concern there for New Babylon. And she's noticing that. And she knows that something bad could happen because of that. So we do see New Babylon show up. And yeah, they want to bring back Manhattan. And that's sort of their new mission now. And really, it's because of the methane. Like, that's really the only reason why they found out that they have methane there, and they're trying to say that it's because it used to be an amazing place, so they just want to do this and that, but really it is a power thing. They saw how much methane that they have there, and New Babylon is running out of their own energy right now and resources, so they're like, well, we have to go there and take that, right? So that's really what it is. It's just a whole power thing. And so I will say, with all the groups here, New Babylon definitely is more of the villain, I would say. Like, you could argue that a lot of the people in Manhattan could be, but with what New Babylon is doing here, it's like, I mean, they literally kill somebody because they don't want to join the military. You know, like that's absolutely insane. Like that's crazy. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of them becoming, you know, I think villains this season. And it's going to be really interesting to see who joins what side, you know, what happens to Pearlie Armstrong, who actually is Colonel Armstrong now. He's not the Marshal anymore, so he's been promoted, but they're going to find out a bunch of stuff, obviously, that he lied to them and a lot of that. So I'm really curious as to where things are going this season, because there's going to be a lot of drama once they actually get to Manhattan, because they're going to get there. Like, Negan and all of them aren't going to be able to stop New Babylon from getting there. Like, they're going to try, obviously, but they're going to get there at some point. We do see Hershel, and he's laughing at that one guy because he's talking like he knows Manhattan, but obviously Hershel has been there before, so he's like describing everything. And yeah, this is where Pearlie actually goes and talks to Maggie and just says, I want you to join, kind of thing. And Maggie is just so like, I am not joining this and that. And she's just very upset that they're even there in general, which obviously makes sense because things are very peaceful there, right? And things have been peaceful for a while, but New Babylon shows up and forces the Bricks into joining their, I guess, alliance, basically. Like, the New Babylon Federation owns a lot of communities now and just sort of forces all of their laws on everyone. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously Maggie is very upset about that. And that is one of the things, I guess, that they dealt with the Commonwealth, was that the Commonwealth was doing that quite a bit. But I think towards the end, it's definitely, you know, it's not like that anymore because you have Ezekiel and Mercer running everything, right? Well, I don't know if they still are, because I think that they do sort of vote on all of that now. It's not Pamela Milton running everything forever now, right? So, but they're running everything for the most part. So I think things are better there. But New Babylon, you know, they're basically like the Commonwealth, but they seem to be a lot more intense with a lot of stuff. And they will do things like that to set an example. So Maggie is very upset about that, and they basically make a deal that if Maggie can join and it's just her, no one else, then yeah, she'll go. But obviously Pearlie Armstrong has to talk everybody into it, so that's just sort of where we're left at for now. Going back to New York City, Negan is, I guess, just wanting some alone time here, and the Croat shows up, and yeah, just some really hilarious scenes there, but he does see Lucille for the first time, and I like what the Croat says there, all about like, you know, all the audience wants are the greatest hits, you know, like artists want to do like all this new material. They want to more focus on this and that. But the reason people are watching, or the reason people are there, is because of the greatest hits. And it's kind of a cool moment because that's really what it is for Negan at this point, right? Like, people want to see the character back to who he used to be. But I will say, like, for the character, he was like that for season 7 and 8, but he's been without Lucille for a very long time. So it's not like, you know, it's been a very long time where they're just going back to that just because. Like, they've done original material with the character for a very long time. So going back to Lucille and whatnot is not like, you know, it's not like just playing the greatest hits kind of thing. It makes sense with the story right now. And so I thought that that was kind of a cool reference there. But we do get to a scene that I thought was happening much later in the season, and we actually see Negan and the Croat go and see this large group of people because they were all, you know, having like this farmer's market or whatever that Negan was referencing. But yeah, we see Bruegel there, and they have walkers fighting walkers. And I will say, I think it's going to be revealed later on this season that that walker wasn't actually a walker, because it just seemed really weird how that walker killed that other walker. Like, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. The walker was trying to like literally kill the walker. So I think it's going to be revealed later that Bruegel has somebody dressed up as a walker and acting like a walker, because they actually mention how he's super rich and he always like wins at these things, this and that. So I think he's doing a lot of things there to actually like win. And I think that'll be something that's revealed way later on in the season at some point. I'm not sure when, but there is that dinner that's happening and they're going to be having like walkers fighting walkers. And I think somewhere around there, it'll be the same thing. I think we're going to learn something around that point there. But yeah, I will just say there's no way that's a walker. And I think there's someone there that's actually killing this walker, and that's why Bruegel's just always winning and getting all these supplies and resources here. The whole moment with Maggie here was, I will say, actually a little scary. Like, I know that the characters are going to survive the walkers, but the way they did the scenes, I kind of felt like the walkers could actually get them at some points here. Like, Ginny was so close to getting bit by a walker, even Maggie as well. But yeah, very scary moment, very intense, but actually, you know, I think the way they did the scene there, it was really cool and kind of messed up for New Babylon to do, but I guess that's just the way New Babylon is. Going back to Negan, his moment happens here. And so I will just say that Croat really knows how to put on a show. I kind of laughed because Negan's out there and he's just like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do this. And then he walks out there and the Croat, like the second he knows that he's walking out there, the lights come on and then the music gets louder and it becomes this whole show, right? And so, yeah, Negan goes into this whole speech without Lucille and they're not really listening. Like, he is that character, he is his old self, but he's kind of just like the current version of the character, right? But I like the fact that he wants Lucille. It wasn't that Lucille was just given to him. You know, like the Croat held on to Lucille the whole time, but it was just at a certain point where he was like, do you want it kind of thing? Or actually Negan looks at him and he's like, give me the bat kind of thing, right? So I like the fact that he asked for it and it wasn't just like given to him and he was like, oh, I guess I have to do this. Like, he was just like, he was getting angry because they weren't listening. He's like, all right, give me Lucille, right? And so we get that whole scene play out there. Everyone's kind of terrified of him afterwards. And I talked about this in my last video because they actually released a part of this scene, like not the beginning part, but I guess the ending part when he gets Lucille. So I will just say, I think that it was a really classic moment that people will remember for a very long time. And I think it's just the beginning. Like, I don't think it's the best of, you know, what we're going to see with Negan, with Lucille. We're going to see a lot more of that, I think, as the character is starting to become, you know, more of himself. Because in this moment here, he seemed to be very like, he was still that character, but he was just very like, do I want to be this person still anymore, right? And we know that we're going to see Lucille, like the actual Lucille, at some point this season here, I think in the later episodes. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see where things are going to be building to here. But at the very ending of the episode here, yeah, we do see Maggie very upset that Ginny wants to go and Hershel wants to go too. And so Maggie confronts Hershel about the drawings. And so, you know, she's very scared. Like, she's wondering, like, what happened over there, you know, and Hershel doesn't want to get into anything here. And so Maggie goes into a whole story about, you know, she didn't really know her mom. And by the time things got better with her dad, like Hershel, she was all grown up. And I think she was using that as an example for Hershel to be like, you know, I really liked how things have been the last few months and I want things to get better between us. And so we basically, like, we have to be closer. We have to trust each other, right? And I think Hershel is just not ready for that yet. And I do think things are going to get worse this season because the character is going to be going down a darker path. And we saw a lot of that, right? Like, the character is kind of, I mean, he's really following his comic book story. And I think I will get into that in a video later this week. Like, I'm going to be doing a bunch of videos on Hershel's comic story. I want to explain New Babylon and just talk about everything with the group so that everyone understands what's going on with the group there and also the groups in New York City. But yeah, I mean, that's really like, that's, the story has been built up really well in this premiere and I'm really excited for episode 2. So overall, I thought that this episode was a great premiere. I think for the most part, I've been seeing everyone say very like solid premiere, very great episode. Not a lot of big things that happened, obviously, but I don't think you need to have that in every premiere. And I always see that, like, I always see that complaint whenever the premiere is not like this really big episode that like, oh, like nothing big happened at all and it was kind of boring. And it's like, I mean, like, that's really, like, finales are more supposed to be that, right? And not even all the time. Sometimes it's like the episode before the finale that's like the very, like, you know, big episode where a lot of stuff happens. And so I think for a premiere, based off of where they were in episode 6 of season 1, they set up quite a bit here. And I'm excited because Maggie and Ginny, they're going to New York City now. And so we'll see what happens there in episode 2. Hershel is going to follow them. Like, we know that's going to happen. So I want to see how that's going to play out here. And Negan is now in a place where, I mean, he's kind of a leader, right? And I think it's going to be one of those things as we see the season go on where people follow him specifically and not the Dama and the Croat. But yeah, I'll do a trailer breakdown of the episode 2 trailer. Well, actually, it was kind of a general trailer for the season, but there was a lot of new footage there and they get into quite a bit of stuff. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. What did you think of episode 1? I'll see you in the next one.